How terminology destroyed our understanding. When you read the title of this video, how did you interpret the word terminology in your mind? Maybe it sounded like a familiar word. Maybe you passed by it without really knowing what it means. And maybe you've never paid much attention to it, or to the influence it has on your understanding. This is exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. In the modern world, we live more than ever with words, but we understand less than ever the realities behind them. Contemporary human beings interact with terminology, not meaning. The moment a word like sadism, fascism, stoicism, narcissism, humanism, freedom, or democracy appears, the mind immediately supplies a short, simplified, and incomplete definition, and believes that this shallow familiarity is sufficient. This is where the problem begins. Our era does not suffer from a lack of knowledge, but from the illusion of knowledge, an illusion born from the reduction of vast concepts into tiny linguistic labels. A person hears a term and feels as though they understand the concept. This feeling is the greatest enemy of real awareness. Terminology gives us the illusion that we have grasped something when in reality, we have only accepted a label. And as a result, society becomes filled with people who possess words but lack meaning, who speak the language of ideas without ever touching the essence of those ideas, who repeat terminology but never encounter truth. One of the clearest examples is sadism. In psychology, sadism is a deep and complex structure involving pleasure, power, control, pain, and the human relationship to dominance. Yet in public culture, sadism has been reduced to nothing more than cruelty. A sophisticated psychological philosophical construct collapses into a shallow insult. The same degradation has happened to the word fascism. Fascism once represented a vast political ideology with a specific worldview, historical roots, and real consequences. Today, anyone who behaves strictly or disagrees with us is labeled a fascist. It no longer matters that the word carries entire volumes of meaning. People now use it as a casual weapon. Stoicism, a philosophy of inner balance, acceptance, responsibility, and understanding human limitations, has been reduced to a slogan: be emotionless. Narcissism, a complex personality configuration, is now simply selfishness. Humanism, a major intellectual movement of the modern world, has shrunk into a moral cliché. Freedom, one of the most debated concepts in the history of thought, has been trivialized into do whatever you want. And democracy, an intricate political system, has dissolved into a romanticized ideal, a decorative word, a symbolic promise. At this point we face three possibilities. The first, that this simplification has been intentional. Media systems, political structures, and institutions of power have long understood that a population armed with words, but deprived of meaning, is the easiest to govern. When fascism becomes an empty label, it can be used to silence opponents. When democracy becomes a brand, any system can market itself as democratic. When freedom becomes a vague emotional slogan, societies can be guided by feelings rather than understanding. In this view, terminology becomes an instrument of control, fast, portable, and extremely effective. But perhaps this process is also part of human nature. The mind instinctively avoids complexity. Complexity demands energy and time. Therefore, it shrinks large concepts into small forms it can manage. For the mind, meanings are heavy and uncertain, but words are light and clear. When someone hears Stoicism, their mind does not enter the long corridors of ancient philosophy. It reduces the concept to something easy and digestible. This reduction may be natural, but it is undeniably destructive. The third possibility is the most dangerous: that modern media, shallow education, and consumer culture have deliberately destroyed meaning. The world today does not require us to understand. It requires us to react. We live in a society where speed has become a value, and depth has become a weakness. When speed matters, meaning dies. When surface matters, terminology triumphs. Media does not want people to analyze. Analysis slows down the circulation of emotional content. Words must fly quickly, even if meaning is crushed beneath them. In such a world, the use of terminology has become a form of performance. People choose the appearance of knowledge over the weight of comprehension. Someone says, "This behavior is fascistic," without having read a single serious definition of fascism, yet the statement elevates their status in the conversation. Someone uses the word narcissism without ever studying the structure of the disorder, but the term itself becomes a badge of cultural literacy. Terminology has become a tool of identity, a form of distinction, a quiet instrument of power, an elegant way of separating those who sound intelligent from those who do not. This is a new form of ignorance, conscious ignorance disguised as intellectual refinement. And so the question arises, should the public use of such terms be limited? Should these words be reserved only for academic environments? The answer is not simple. Absolute restriction becomes censorship, and censorship is always dangerous. Absolute freedom creates the empty landscape we see today, a world full of words and empty of understanding. Perhaps the solution is neither prohibition nor careless openness, but the cultivation of sensitivity to meaning. When a person feels the weight of a concept, they do not use the term as a fashion accessory. When they recognize the depth behind a word, they no longer treat it as a gesture of smartness. The issue is not whether we use terminology or avoid it. The issue is whether we allow terminology to replace understanding. The modern world does not suffer because we lack concepts. It suffers because we have an excess of labels. We have reached a point where words are overconsumed and meanings are underappreciated. And as long as this imbalance remains, our awareness will always be incomplete. Not because we do not know, but because we have convinced ourselves that we do.